So I know Project Renee was not technically supposed to be The Sims 5. It was going to be a completely new generation game, allegedly, with things that we've just never ever seen before in The Sims. And now it's turned out to be an add-on for The Sims 4. So not really a next generation game, more so just an add-on for a 10-year-old generation game. What would you call that? I don't know. Is that like 19th century? Is that what 2000 and when was this released? 2005? Is that 19th century? The Sims 4 is like a 19th century game, so it's not a new generation. The Project Renee is old generation. So I'm not disappointed that it's not The Sims 5. I'm just disappointed that it's literally going to be an old generation game. We have to remember that although EA have said that they're making massive improvements to The Sims 4, I gave this analogy in a previous video. The Sims 4 base game is a wonky table, and every single update, every single pack is like a layer of a cake placed on that table. You can put as many pretty, delicious, magnificent layers on top of this cake, but the table's wonky, so it will always look like a wonky cake. Another analogy is that if you put a cherry on top of a piece of shit, it's still a piece of shit. I wouldn't go far as saying The Sims 4 is a total pile of poo, but it definitely has some fundamental grounding issues which can't just be fixed by simply providing bug fix updates, updating from DirectX 9 to 11. These kind of things aren't really going to change a lot of the core issues with the game. A good example of this is the recent World of Color update, where they added a few new items as well as brand new color swatches, apparently over 650 different color swatches for loads of base game things, which is very lovely that they work very hard on adding 650 color swatches. But in The Sims 3, we literally had an unlimited amount of color swatches thanks to a color wheel. In fact, not just color swatches, but even patterns. You could upload your own custom patterns, use one of the hundreds of pre-made patterns. So there was really like an infinite number of possibilities there. So we can have 650 new swatches, which are technically not 650 brand new colors. It's just like the same shade of red applied to 650 items. So we only got a few new color swatches in this update, and it still doesn't really fix the fact that The Sims 4 doesn't have a color wheel, which makes it seem very primitive compared to literally even The Sims 3. With that being said, how are they going to be updating The Sims 4 in order to actually keep it like modernized for a new generation when they can't even implement something as basic as a color wheel into the game? The exact same thing could be said for hair colors, even the skin colors. The fact that you can't separate a bed frame from a duvet, this is something that they're never going to be able to fix. The exact same thing could be said for an open world. And when I say an open world, I don't mean huge like The Sims 3, even just an open neighborhood. In The Sims 4, we have these sectioned off neighborhoods and you can see all the other houses. You can even see in them, but you can't actually access them. How are they going to be able to implement something like that unless they completely re-alter, basically create a whole new engine? But at that point, it would be a completely different game. The Sims 4 is almost impossible to modernize to an acceptable standard that we would expect from a life simulation game in this era. Whenever I see Simmers talk about what they want added to The Sims 4, the main things that come up is open world, cars, and color wheels. And it's so interesting to me, like how many pack concepts infinitely exist, yet people just want these 3 tiny features. Simmers very clearly want a brand new Sims game. And I understand why EA don't want to move loads of Simmers on. They're making so much money off The Sims 4. Why on earth would they actually create a brand new game where they would have to buy all these new packs again? It doesn't make any sense for them. So I do admit from a financial perspective why it may be a bad idea. And we even had that problem when we moved on from The Sims 3 to The Sims 4. A lot of Simmers had a hard time doing it because The Sims 3 was just so much better. And obviously they own all these Sims 3 packs. I think another big concern is that Project Renee is planning to be obviously this multiplayer add-on, and The Sims 4 is basically a live service game now. So it seems like they're trying to go down this like live service route with The Sims 4. Like EA loves their live service. I told you before, they've probably got a fetish for it. The problem with live service in The Sims though is it just does not work. Live service works for those like shooting games, for example. I think it works perfectly. I play these kinds of games. You guys know I love Valorant, and live service is excellent. It makes sense. In The Sims 4 though, the way the game is built up as a single player experience, it doesn't make sense. Even with Project Renee, it's still primarily going to be a single player experience. Likely you're just going to be with other people. Like, what could they do with Project Renee other than turn it into a metaverse? Do you know what I mean? It's not like, for example, a live service shooting game, which actually comes with gameplay and it comes with competition and things. It's just, I don't know what it's going to be. I don't even know if EA knows what it's going to be. I just don't think the whole concept works. They tried to do an online thing with The Sims twice and they failed both times miserably previously. So I don't know why they're trying to go for it a third time. Sims, as I said, primarily are single player players. They don't really want to play with other people. And even if they do, I don't know how they could actually make it meaningful. Interestingly, in previous previews of Project Renee, they have shown off some things, including a kind of color wheel for the hair or some kind of color gradients. So even though Project Renee is going to be an add-on to The Sims 4, it's very clear that it is going to be kind of separate in that maybe it's in a new engine. They did say in one of their investor interviews recently that they planned on being able to share assets between games in the Sims universe, as they call it. So potentially if you own the cats and dogs pack in The Sims 4, then maybe you'll have pets in Project Renee, or you'll be able to have the outfits and build mode items from cats and dogs imported in Project Renee. It seems like there's going to be something like this. I am certainly not against that. I think it's a good solution personally. But then they did also state before that Project Renee will be getting packs like The Sims 4 has packs. They gave an example that you might have a winter pack, because no, seasons are not seasons anymore. Instead of just one season's pack, we're potentially getting 4 packs: a spring pack, autumn pack, summer pack, winter pack. 4 times the money for EA, 4 times a disappointment for the players. So if we're getting like packs in this game, but it's going to be cross pack, like compatible with The Sims 4 and importing them, what does that actually mean? It sounds like a mess. Obviously they can just go back on what they said in previous interviews, because it's not like they've released it yet. I think it was very brave of them to release all this information, because it leaves them open to so much criticism if they go back on ideas. I'm also predicting Project Renee is going to look exactly the same as The Sims 4, because if we're importing like assets, then it's gonna have to look the same, or at least very, very similar. They have done this with, I believe, The Sims Mobile, where there's actually a lot of shared build mode assets between The Sims Mobile and The Sims 4, which is very funny, also kind of lazy. The reason why this makes me even more concerned about the future of The Sims is they really are falling behind, and they announced in their Investor Day live stream recently just how much they really are falling behind. I know I made a lot of comparisons to Inzoi, but that game just looks so incredible in terms of all the different kinds of things that you can do in it. And that game is not even released yet. We've seen some creator previews of the game and it looks impeccable, and the game is not even fully out yet. Granted, I definitely have criticism about Inzoi, and I still definitely think it lacks a certain charm, or at least some kind of objective, and it definitely needs a lot of work. But in terms of just the advanced features that they have in Inzoi, it just goes to show how far the life simulation genre could go with a next gen life sim game. And Project Renee, if it's just going to be a sidestep to The Sims 4 rather than a upward step, it's not really going to be a next gen. Did you know The Sims 4 was originally intended to be a online multiplayer game? The Sims 4 was not actually supposed to be a main title Sims game. The Sims 4 was actually supposed to be a sidestep to The Sims 3, like an online experience, like a totally separate thing. And then they scrapped this idea last minute and just turned it into the main title Sims 4 experience. Are they going to repeat history and do the same again with Project Renee after realizing that it's probably going to flop? Are they going to recycle the project into The Sims 5? Something that I am happy about is that EA are returning to looking into more Sims spin-off games in general, though. We've seen the resurgence of My Sims. Granted, right now, all we've got is just a remaster of the original My Sims and My Sims Kingdom games. It leaves the door open for them to do some more experiences that feel like a full-on game experience that are not live. I'm assuming the My Sims remake is not going to be live service, God forbid. It's just a game that you buy and it's yours. And I definitely think they need to be doing more games, not live service free to download shite, but actual games that are spin-offs. I just think this would work so well in terms of broadening what The Sims is. They have announced, unfortunately, a brand new Sims mobile game, which will obviously be microtransaction-y. And I personally think it's going to end up flopping, but at least they're trying and it leaves the door open. But other than that, I just feel like Simmers have been crying out for not multiplayer, not new packs. They just want a next-gen Sims game. And I feel like this pressure is increasing ever since the announcement of Inzoi. And of course, we've got Paralives who are uploading brand new previews of the development of their game, and it all just looks very exciting. And even though Paralives is a very, very indie, small, quite simplistic life simulation game, even that looks incredibly next gen in terms of all the different things you could do in there compared to The Sims 4. And even though Project Renee will most certainly include some next gen things, maybe a color wheel, it's not going to be the next gen main title Sims game, which is what I think people really want. And it does make me concerned for the future of The Sims that it will just get overtaken by other live sim games coming out. Aside from Inzoi or Paralives, there are probably going to be even more developers coming out to take a piece of the pie, especially with cozy games becoming more and more popular. Video game developers are starting to realize that 16-year-old horny boys, men with angry virgin disorder, are not the only people who play video games. Therefore, not every video game needs to be tailored towards them. There's a whole other market of other people who enjoy other kinds of games like cozy games, and they all want a piece of the pie. So undoubtedly at some point soon too, we're going to be seeing even more live sim games come out, and they're all going to just outdo each other in some other way. But as I said, The Sims feels like it's just doing a sidestep. It looks like Project Renee is probably going to include quality of life features that we had like 20 years ago in The Sims 3, like a bloody color wheel for hair color. But is it really going to be next gen? I don't think so, and it has me feeling quite worried. I don't want The Sims to die. I know I'm a bit of a Sims 4 hater on this channel, but I'm not a Sims hater. You know, in the Sims 3 era, I think I owned about 2 or 3 packs. I only ever played with one of them, which was the Sims 3 World Adventures, and I genuinely got like over 100 hours of gameplay out of just that one pack. Whereas in the Sims 4, I own all the packs, and I struggle to find what kind of gameplay concepts I can do. They've definitely taken The Sims down a notch, and it has deteriorated, unfortunately. The Sims 4 is the least advanced Sims game in terms of live mode. It's the most advanced in terms of build mode and arguably cast mode, but not in terms of live mode, which is obviously the most important thing. So anything they can do up from now will only be slight because they are held back by The Sims 4, because Project Renee is just kind of like a Sims 4 add-on experience. So there's just not much they can do, and I have a feeling that they're going to be overthrown. Seeming that The Sims 5 is not coming out, I think the best we can hope for is a remake of an older Sims game, kind of like maybe The Sims Bustin' Out. Those older Sims console games like Bustin' Out genuinely felt kind of like the main title games. They were just like console experiences fundamentally. But if they did a spin-off game that was open worlds and had color wheels and things and cars, they definitely could make a next-gen Sims game but just label it as a spin-off. So I don't think the future is 100% doomed, but it is like 99% doomed. Oh dear. If you want to know more about the Sims universe and what it's going to entail, including all of the new spin-off games that we do know are coming, make sure you check out this video here. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next one.